Welcome to Beyond the Covers. I'm Chris Horner, and today I want to cover some more bike racing, of course, because we got three good bike races going on. Valencia's going on. It was a nail biter. Etoile de Besseges, man, it was the show from the young kid Arnaud Delis. And then, of course, when we go to the Saudi Tour, what happened to Dylan Groenewegen, one of the fastest sprinters in the world, for Jaco Alula? They came up short, right? Well, let's first dissect Saudi Tour because it's the final stage of the race, stage 5. We know it's going to be a field sprint because all the sprinters want a last chance to win before they get back on the flight and head over to the cold weather back over in Europe. So when we look at the stage, we want to bring it all the way down to almost the finish at 1.7 kilometers to go. And Jaco Alula, they're doing a fantastic job. Didn't do much work throughout the stage, helped with the other sprinters at the front. But at 1.7 kilometers to go, 5 riders are at the front, 4 leading out Dylan Groenewegen as they sweep in to the left turn with 1.6 kilometers to go. Now, shortly after that, we see the first rider on front for Jaco. He's going to pull off, and it's human-powered Health that takes over the front with only 2 riders. Now after that, Bahrain Victorious is coming to the front with 1 kilometer to go. Then we look at the famous glass building there as the shot of the peloton disappears, to my disbelief, because I think you should be showing the action at this point in time. But film crew has something else in mind. When we come back, we're swinging into the hard right turn with just under a K to go. Now on the front, it's Bahrain Victorious Jonathan Milan sitting second wheel, getting what looks like it's going to be a decent position for the sprint finish today's stage 5 here at Saudi Tour, because you know with about 900 meters to go and only 1 rider in front of you, if you're Bahrain Victorious, you're not going to get your man all the way to the finish, but you are going to put Jonathan Milan into the hot seat here so he can slot onto one of the other sprinter trains. Now we go back and we look a little bit further with about 800 meters to go. This is a crucial point right here for Jaco Alula to start making the right decisions. And I want to highlight Luka Mezgec because he is the main lead-out guy for Dylan Groenewegen, and he has to guide his sprinter as best as possible, like we see Michael Morkov when we're talking about Quick-Step, the way he's able to guide all the top sprinters for Team Quick-Step throughout the years past. Now, we look at Mezgec, he's got a decision to make because just in front of him, he has Bahrain Victorious there, and it's Jonathan Milan and his lead-out guys in front of him. Problem is, as he looks back over his shoulder, right side shoulder, he looks back to see if Dylan Groenewegen, his sprinter's on his wheel. He sees the sprinter, but when he looks back, he's also going to see Santiago Buitrago, Bahrain Victorious, on the right side. This, as a lead-out man for your sprinter, is a crucial thing here when you see Santiago Buitrago to the right of you, because that means when you're going to come between the wheel there of Jonathan Milan and Santiago Buitrago, you have to do what? You got to make a little bit of space for Dylan Groenewegen. Or you got to choose a different direction. Now, I'll show you the film. He's got the possibility, Mezgec that is, of either going right, and that means he's got to push riders to make a gap for Dylan Groenewegen, or I believe a better option might have been to go left. Now, I'm splitting hairs, and I don't care if you go right. I prefer left, but I don't care if you go right. But if you go right, you have to push the rider. We're talking about Bahrain Victorious or any riders that are going to be on the right side there. You have to push them over a little bit, because what is Jonathan Milan going to do? Well, when he's coming back down the train there of the Jaco Alula, he's going to try to slot back in so that he can get himself a nice draft all the way to the finish for the final 600 meters of today's stage 5 of the Saudi Tour. Instead, Luka Mezgec goes up and he fights there with Jonathan Milan and bumps him. Now, what's going to happen, though? If you bump Jonathan Milan, Milan's going to slot back behind, and he's going to come back behind Luka Mezgec, which means Dylan Groenewegen's going to have to fight there with Jonathan Milan, and we're talking about 600 meters to go. So we fast forward just about another 100 meters, and we'll see Luka Mezgec slots onto his teammate's wheel after he does a little bump there with Jonathan Milan. But now we got big problems behind when we're talking about Dylan Groenewegen. And if you're Luka Mezgec, the priority is Dylan Groenewegen, not yourself. So, like I said, he didn't make enough space. If I back the film up just a little bit more, we'll see if he comes all the way over to the right. That would have pushed the riders on the right side over. Of course, Milan would have tried to come back here, but it would have given the gap for Dylan Groenewegen to slot up and follow the wheel. Of course, Luka Mesgic has to have some powerful legs and do a big acceleration. Instead, he slots on. Now we see the big problems again when we're talking about Dylan Groenewegen, because it's Max Canter Movistar that flew up past Santiago Buitrago, and Jonathan Milan slotting back down behind Luka Mesgic. That means he's coming this way. Max Canter's coming this way, and Dylan Groenewegen's stuck in the middle. Once you're stuck in the middle, no matter how much pushing and shoving you're doing, if you're Dylan Groenewegen, you can't win that battle. He realizes he can't win the battle, so we fast forward to film just another 100 meters. We see Dylan Groenewegen now has to slot behind Max Canter, the Movistar rider, and then start his acceleration up. He does exactly that. As the road starts to bend slightly to the left, he flies around. Now the road has a slight bend to the right as we're talking about 350 meters to go, and you'll see Dylan Groenewegen, he's flying up the right side, passing Max Canter and starting to come up on the Luka Mesgic wheel. Now, we're just about 325 meters to go. Dylan Groenewegen has the option of still latching back over onto Luka Mesgic's wheel, because 300 meters, slightly uphill about 3%, when you've already been in the wind for about 200 meters, if not 300 meters, and doing a bunch of accelerations, he has the option there of slotting back onto his teammates, pulling in the clutch and slowing the speed down, hoping to give his legs a little bit of recovery from that big acceleration. But he's coming with so much speed that, of course, Dylan Groenewegen just decides he's going to go full gas. So he hits the afterburners 100%, starts going up the fencing on the right side of the road. He's going full gas. Only problem is now we start looking back and you see it's Cofidis back there. And Cofidis, Simone Consoni has been flying up past the riders, getting a half draft through everyone as he's accelerating, as the road's starting to go uphill. Now it's 200 meters to go. Dylan Groenewegen solidly on the front. You look at 150 meters to go. All of a sudden, Simone Consoni Cofidis, he is flying up and he's locked onto the wheel of Dylan Groenewegen, getting about what I would call about a half draft off of the Jaco Alula rider. Now 100 meters to go. Simone Consoni knows it's time to kick the afterburners on. And the problem is Dylan Groenewegen's been in the front too long and he's battled too much with other riders because of those mistakes from Luka Mesgic. And now the legs are starting to fall off of Dylan Groenewegen. It's not happening. The same thing is not happening to Cofidis rider Simone Consoni as he's accelerating all the way to the line to win Stage 5 of the Saudi Tour for Cofidis. Simone Consoni, congratulations. That was a spectacular ride. Watching you just gliding off of all the riders, going from wheel to wheel all the way up the left side of the group to beat Dylan Groenewegen. Groenewegen faded all the way to the line and ended up finishing fourth on today's stage, as it was Matteo Malucelli that ended up finishing second. And guess what? Third on the stage, Pascal Ackermann, UAE team members. Congratulations. You were sick on stage 1, 2, probably 3 and 4, and get a podium here on stage 5 of the Saudi Tour. Now, Jaco, I want to bring that up just because remember when he won stage 1 for Jaco Alula, he talked about reviewing the tapes and stuff. Today's mistakes is easy to go. The point blank easy mark is to say, well, he started sprinting from 300 meters. He's in the wind too long. But I really believe it goes back to the mistake that his lead-out man, Luka Mesgic, made. You have the right choice of going to the left, which would have been clean, and you can go around up to your teammates, bringing Dylan Groenewegen clean all the way up to your teammates' lead-out wheel, and coming around the Bahrain victorious Jonathan Milan and not having the battle there, and would have left a clean road all the way for Dylan Groenewegen. Or if you go right, I don't have a problem with going right, but if you are going right and you're Luka Mesgic, you got to leave the gap so that it's clean for Dylan Groenewegen to come all the way up. Luka Mesgic would have to go past his teammate's wheel by just a little bit and then come back over so that Dylan Groenewegen had a solid draft all the way to the line. Those were the crucial mistakes on today's stage 5 when we're talking about Jaco Alula's Dylan Groenewegen and Luka Mesgic. Now, I told you Etoile de Besseges was an amazing race, probably the best one to watch if you only have time to watch one race on today. It's got to be Etoile de Besseges because Arnaud Delis did an amazing job. Lotto Soudal had to do some work early in the stage, and there are no easy stages here at Etoile de Besseges with all the windy conditions, the crashes they had on yesterday's annulled stage. But then today on stage 3, we see the big battle with about 30 kilometers to go as it's Mads Pedersen from Trek Segafredo that's lighting up the course, trying to do damage so they can get rid of Arnaud Delis and have some action and suspense here for the GC guys battling on stage 3 at Etoile de Besseges. Now it blows up in pieces. There's about 15 riders in the front, and it's EF Education's Nielsen Palace is doing an amazing job splitting stuff up there. Behind, we see it's 2 Lotto Destiny riders back there helping Arnaud Delis close the gap up to the group in front. And with about 14 kilometers to go, there's a hard left turn. One of the Lotto riders can't make the turn. He goes flying off. I think it's Brent Van Moor. He misses the turn. His other Lotto rider, though, gets him and closes that gap just before the final uphill climb starts today at stage 3 of Etoile de Besseges. Now it's going to crest the top of the climb and descend, and there's going to be some action going up this climb. And again, it's Nielsen Palace, EF Education, that's involved in all the action. This time about 8-10 riders will split up, but Arnaud Delis, he's doing an amazing job back there of closing the gaps with some help from AG2R that missed all the splits today on stage 3. As the gaps come together, it's about 2.5 kilometers, just under 3 to go. We'll see another big attack, and Arnaud Delis covers the move himself, then tries to put in a little acceleration there with about 2.2 kilometers to go, realizes he's getting chased down, shuts it down, and now you got a dangerous situation at Etoile de Besseges because you're coming into the finish of stage 3 without a sprint team and with everyone thinking they got a chance of winning today's stage in a small group sprint. It goes curb to curb about 400 or 500 meters before the line. There's a crash. Arnaud Delis avoids it as he's sitting about second, third row before the sprint starts, but he's a little blocked in the center of the road. He does a hard maneuver to the right, avoids all the riders, gets to the right side of the road with about 150 meters to go, starts the acceleration, and dominates today's stage 3 sprint finish for Lotto Destiny as he takes his second stage victory and defends his race leader's jersey at Etoile de Besseges. Now let's get quickly over Valencia because Valencia had a little bit of their own nail-biting action. It was a group of 5 up the road when they hit the last climb just around 30 kilometers to go. It was Lawson Craddock that blew that group up, went solo over the top of the climb, but he got caught from the 3 riders behind, and as he got caught with about 17 kilometers to go, to my disbelief, going slightly downhill, Lawson Craddock comes off the back of that group and leaves only 3 riders at the front. Now the 3 riders are throwing down hard. The gap is starting to come down because they got about a minute gap to the group behind, being led by Bahrain Victorious, of course, because they've been on the front every stage here at Valencia, and they got some help from Movistar. Now Bob Jungels is putting on a show up front, pulling 100% for Bora Hansgrohe as he's trying to hold off the group behind. The other 2 riders, Simone Velasco from Astana, he's not missing turns, doing 100%. Jonas Gregard up there for Uno X, he's doing big time pulls as the road is slightly downhill all the way into the finish. It's a nail biter because as we see, it's about 20-second gap with about 5 kilometers to go. With 1 kilometer to go, the gap is under 10 seconds. We got Bob Jungels on the front. Second wheel, Jonas Gregard is sitting there for Uno X, and then it's Simone Velasco that's sitting third wheel. Bob Jungels is done pulling, and when he does, he goes to the left. Jonas Gregard, he takes off to the right, and guess what? Velasco does the cheeky move right here. He opens the gap and he makes Bob Jungels from Bora Hansgrohe have to close it. As they come into the roundabout with just about 250 meters to go or so, we see it's the Uno X rider leading it in there. Bob Jungels sitting second. Simone Velasco now is sitting third wheel with about 150 meters to go. He starts his acceleration, comes around Bob Jungels and Jonas Gregard as he takes today's stage victory at Valencia. Now Bob Jungels held on for second. Jonas Gregard for Uno X held on for third. And the peloton just behind it was a nail biter as they come across probably 2 seconds off the wheel to finish today's stage 3 at Valencia. Trek Segafredo's Ciccone held on to the race lead on today's Valencia. But let me remind you guys, he's only got 4 teammates, 5 total here for Trek Segafredo. So it's going to be a big-time GC battle again in tomorrow's stage 4 of Valencia. Hope you guys like my take here up on Beyond the coverage of the 3 races going on that are big time important and the early season races here for the European peloton. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next edition real soon.